He and I started talking online through social media, and then we started talking on the phone.
Shocking news broke. Mary had been catfished. Unbeknownst to Cody and her sister wives, she had engaged in an online relationship.
Stop scrolling. Your favorite sister wife just blew the lid off reality TV's best-kept secret. Those late-night I love you voicemails Mary left for her mystery man. They're real, they're raw, and TLC wanted them locked in a vault forever.
Mary believed it was with a man named Sam, but now it appears Sam may not exist.
Tonight we press play. Buckle in as we unpack Mary's catfish confessions, the flirty phone calls, the escalating threats, and the moment she realized Sam was nothing but smoke and mirrors. This isn't just another Brown family squabble, it's the scandal that nearly detonated the entire Plural Palace, and the tapes prove it. Ready for the receipts? Let's hit rewind.
And I really enjoyed the friendship and the laughter. He started saying all the right things.
So here we are, dear friends, perched on the edge of a revelation bigger than Cody's infamous nacho fiasco. A former field producer speaking on background and demanding triple anonymity alleges that a hard drive labeled Mary Off Hours Do Not Copy sat under lock and key at corporate for almost 8 years. Allegedly, the drive holds a sequence of late-night recordings Mary left on what she believed was her beau's private line.
And I fell for it. I started to love who he was portraying himself to be.
Picture it. 2 a.m. in the cul-de-sac, Arizona crickets chirping, Mary whispering promises of future beach strolls while the rest of the clan snoozed unaware. The producer claims Legal's first instinct was to shelve the entire batch, fearing defamation blowback if the voice on the other end proved fake. Another insider counters that executives simply could not square the tender admissions with the show's family-friendly veneer, noting tactfully that plural harmony sells better than betrayed intimacy.
And the person behind him may actually be a woman.
Mary, I want to talk to you about something that I know is difficult.
Whatever the motive, word flew down the corridor that Mary's rawest moments were henceforth off-limits permanently. Yet rumor has it, a junior editor clipped a snippet for personal reference, strictly for continuity, she insists, and that 60-second fragment has circulated in underground sister wives chat circles ever since. Listeners describe Mary's tone as equal parts giddy teen and heartsick poet, ending with a soft, almost musical sigh that would make any grandmother reach for a hankie. Unverified? Absolutely. But the very fact the network clamped down so quickly suggests the material was potent enough to rattle the profit center. And that leads us to the million-dollar question. What precise phrase did Mary utter that sent executives dashing for non-disclosure forms?
Your eyes are already tearing up. It's been revealed that you had an online connection with someone who may not have been who you thought.
Stay close, because the next coil of this ribbon hints at cyber threats, burner phones, and a hacker nickname so theatrical it belongs in a paperback thriller. Picture a phone vibrating at dawn, the screen flashing an unfamiliar Denver area code, and an intern in post-production wondering why corporate legal is dialing her personal cell on a Saturday. Insiders whisper that was the morning everything changed. According to the call log, no official confirmation, the intern had downloaded a continuity reel from the forbidden hard drive to verify Mary's timeline, only to discover that the smooth baritone on the voicemails belonged to a public domain sound-alike app. Allegedly, she flagged the finding to her supervisor, who panicked when he realized an entire emotional subplot rested on a voice generated by software marketed for prank calls.
It was about that time that the legal divorce between Cody and I had been made public, and throughout that month, all of us were getting bombarded with questions of what's going on.
Within hours, the intern's inbox was flooded with cease and desist notices, and she was instructed to wipe every local copy before sunrise. The urgency makes sense once you hear what sources claim was on the tape. Mary reportedly coos about our secret getaway to Laguna, then murmurs, "Promise me the beach, promise me forever," before an automated chime interrupts, one that tech-savvy fans later matched to a free voicemail service favored by Catfish scammers. Producers? Our tipster says feared viewers would question why cameras kept rolling while Mary walked that emotional tightrope. A fragile plotline can be re-edited. The credibility of a network franchise is harder to salvage. So the footage vanished, replaced by reaction shots and vague voiceover about an online friendship. Yet the drama didn't end there. A former security consultant for the show, again speaking under conditions of deep background, claims Mary soon received anonymous text boasting, "Your whispers belong to me now."
You know, did Mary divorce Cody? Why did Mary divorce Cody? And lots and lots and lots of comments to me cheering me on that I had finally left him.
He describes frantic conference calls where TLC brass debated hiring digital forensics to trace the number. Rumor has it they balked at the price tag, opting instead to issue Mary a brand new phone and a gentle reminder to keep personal chats off company bandwidth. She agreed, but friends say her relief was short-lived. The next evening, a bouquet of lilies arrived at her front door with a note reading, "Laguna waits," no return address of course. Who sent them? And how did they know her private nickname for the phantom suitor? Pull up a chair. The twist involves a woman nicknamed the Velvet Hacker, a discarded laptop, and a cache of screenshots that never made it to the cloud until now.
It was all social media. And I guess I just kind of got into this vulnerable state where I was open to friendships and relationships outside of my family.
Rumor has it, the Velvet Hacker first surfaced in a niche message board devoted to digital forensics, posting under the handle Silk Phantom and offering to audit celebrity catfish scams for the price of espresso. One polite but persistent user asked if that included the Brown household situation, and within minutes, Silk Phantom replied with a winking gif of a lily blooming. Unverified screen grabs of the thread suggest she claimed to possess an entire archive of Mary's late-night recordings, harvested from an abandoned laptop purchased at a Utah estate sale. The laptop allegedly once belonged to a freelance story producer who had stored backup assets on its hard drive before skipping town for a non-union gig. Insiders allege TLC lawyers scrambled to buy the device back quietly, but the seller insisted it had already been shipped to a collector on the East Coast. That collector, sources speculate, was none other than Sam, or more accurately, the woman behind Sam.
And people started reaching out to me, and there's this one particular person who did reach out to me, and he and I started talking online.
Whose real name insiders give as Cheryl, a mid-40s social media strategist with a history of elaborate roleplay accounts. No official confirmation, yet an old college roommate tells me Cheryl boasted of holding a reality star in her palm, one voicemail at a time. The roommate, uneasy, claims she tipped off production anonymously after hearing Cheryl practice a husky male voice into a cheap USB mic. TLC, facing potential scandal, reportedly considered sending a cease and desist but worried any legal salvo might confirm the tape's authenticity. Meanwhile, Mary, newly issued phone in hand, tried to reset her life, throwing herself into B&B renovations and posting sun-drenched selfies from Parowan. Yet each gentle ping of a text set her nerves on edge. Friends say she saved every unknown number under the contact name Nope, refusing to open the messages but unable to delete them either.
He started saying all the right things. He started saying very flattering comments and expressing affection and love.
One evening, while tightening a doorknob at Lizzie's Heritage Inn, she claims she heard Sam's exact voice echo from the hallway, only to discover her own voicemail playing on speaker from a burner phone left on a windowsill. Allegedly, the device displayed a countdown app labeled Reveal Day. Terrified, Mary locked it in a desk drawer and called production, who sent a courier to collect the evidence. The courier's van, insiders whisper, never arrived at the studio. GPS data shows it idling on a highway shoulder for 47 silent minutes before the signal went dark. What happened on that roadside? And why did the driver vanish along with the phone? The next breadcrumb leads to a storage unit in Flagstaff, a crumpled NDA, and a curious invoice for 20 gallons of nacho cheese. Insiders familiar with Flagstaff's miniature warehousing scene allege that Unit B17 at Desert Canyon Storage changed renters 3 times in 5 months, each lease paid with crisp money orders bearing the same looping initials, SP.
That was something when I first started talking to this person. I was open to the friendship and the laughter.
What can you tell me about the voicemails and letters?
The current tenant, according to an employee who spoke on background, is a petite brunette with a banker's calm voice who arrives after closing, never removes her sunglasses, and asks for the lights to be cut before she wheels in a single battered steamer trunk. Rumor pins that trunk to the missing courier, the one who vanished with Mary's burner phone, because security footage, since overridden of course, reportedly caught an identical case being loaded into the van on the day he disappeared. A retired detective reviewing still shots privately suggests the trunk's vintage brass fittings match those favored by early 2000s television field crews for transporting archival Betacam tapes. Unverified, but intriguing enough that TLC's risk team, sources allege, offered Desert Canyon's manager a non-disclosure agreement and a generous maintenance stipend after making a late-night visit accompanied by two men who did not give names but parked a rental SUV whose plates traced back to the network's insurance carrier.
You know, through the course of our phone conversations, he would tell me things like, I want you to call me and leave me messages and tell me, you know, how you feel, or tell me, you know, all these certain things. And he was specific about things that he wanted me to say. And
across town, Cody, oblivious to the storage unit shuffle, was filming pickup scenes about family unity. Crew members whisper he grew agitated whenever anyone mentioned Mary's storyline, snapping that the Catfish chapter is closed, focus on nachos, focus on Coyote Pass. Yet during one sound check, his lav mic supposedly captured him muttering, "If those tapes drop, the whole season implodes." The audio tech, fearing discipline, copied the raw feed to a personal drive before handing in the official card. She later told friends the line came moments before Cody checked his phone, paled, and abruptly insisted on a rewrite that framed Mary's ordeal as her private healing journey rather than lingering deception. Mary, meanwhile, sensed a new tension. On a group text shared with the sister wives, she floated plans for a post-pandemic brunch. Within minutes, Robin replied with a single thumbs-up emoji, then silence.
He wanted you to say on the voicemail that you were in love.
He wanted me to express, you know, how much I loved him and how much I cared for him.
How long did this go on?
I talked to him for quite a while.
Janelle sent a polite, "Love the idea," but according to Mary's confidante, dialed privately to warn, "Someone's stirring the pot. Be careful what you put in writing." The confidante describes Mary crossing the inn's parlor, removing an old cassette recorder from a decorative shelf, and slipping in a fresh 60-minute tape. "If they think I'm scared of my own voice," she reportedly said, pressing record, "wait till they hear what comes next." And what exactly did she plan to say into that whirring little machine? The answer, sources allege, involves a late-night knock, a USB full of WAV files, and a demand for hush money measured not in dollars but in screen time. Fresh intrigue arrived 2 evenings later when, insiders whisper, a plain envelope slid under the vestibule door at Lizzie's Heritage Inn. Inside, a single flash drive labeled simply, "Nacho Cheese." Mary, still recording her spoken diary, chronicled the moment in real time, gasping that the drive contained every voicemail. TLC buried. Unverified leaks claim at least half a dozen audio files featured her unmistakable laugh, followed by a syrup-sweet "Love you, Sam," punctuated by a playful sigh, hardly scandalous until a follow-up file allegedly pivots from flirtation to fear.
But it was early on that I started seeing cracks in his story and things were not making sense. And he started pushing more and more for a more serious relationship at the same time as subtle threats.
In that clip, Mary's voice shaken pleads, "Please stop calling Mariah's dorm," before a muffled male baritone answers, "Then do as you're told." The baritone, experts later concluded, carried faint digital artifacts suggesting voice masking software, bolstering speculation that Sam was never one person but a rotating cast behind a single synthetic filter. Mary's first call after hearing the files, sources allege, was not to Cody but to production legal. She reportedly offered cooperation if the network would, in her words, own its part in protecting my harasser. Minutes later, a senior story editor rang Cody, who was filming a segment in Sedona about keeping the family strong. Witnesses recall him stepping away, turning crimson, and shouting, "Tell her she signed releases, this is over." Yet hours after that, a junior line producer allegedly couriered Mary a rough-cut scene list highlighting every episode where the catfish was mentioned and every session where it was deliberately trimmed. The insinuation was clear. Mary held receipts, but TLC held the scissors. Robin, ever the diplomat, reached out next. A family insider recounts a tense speakerphone exchange. Robin urging that exposing old wounds helps no one. Mary replying that silencing those wounds helps only one.
What were the threats, Mary?
He would say things about his friend that you don't ever want to cross her. I eventually met her in real life. I never did meet him. But I met her, and she would do things like placing her phone on my phone and say that she could get all the information.
Robin's last recorded words before hanging up were allegedly, "If you force this, remember who still calls you sister." Mary's answer, according to the insider, was a calm, blood or water. The truth floats sooner or later. Which truth did she mean? The romantic fantasies, the threats, or the question of who inside the family first leaked those voicemails to a stranger? That, friends, is the riddle now ricocheting through every cul-de-sac group chat from Flagstaff to Parowan, and the next revelation may name names. Whispers grew sharper when a former field producer disgruntled after being rotated off the crew slid into a fan blog comment thread under the alias Boom Mike Barry. His post, since deleted but screen-grabbed by the internet's night owls, claimed that an entire interview segment with Mary was excised because she linked the Catfish saga to Cody's on-camera nacho shaming. According to Barry, Mary told Sukanya, "The night those voicemails started, my self-worth was already slipping. Cody had just called Christine chubby again in front of the crew, and I figured if thinness and flattery were the ticket, maybe I'd seek them elsewhere." TLC, Barry says, cut the line to avoid reigniting diet criticism around a network still smarting from earlier body image backlash. Rumor has it, Mary's recollection didn't stop there. In the missing footage, she allegedly described how the Catfish courted her with compliments about her entrepreneur spirit, echoing phrases Cody once used before their legal divorce. That verbal déjà vu, Mary hinted, was why she trusted the stranger so swiftly. When editors flagged the parallel as too damning, it vanished in favor of gentler B-roll. Barry insists the raw tape shows Mary wiping away tears, confessing that Cody's public indifference felt like permission to flirt.
And I made the decision to distance myself from my friends and even my family because I felt like I had to protect them until I could get to a place that I could safely get out of the situation.
No official confirmation exists, but fans note the episode in question did jump abruptly from Mariah's college send-off to a scene of Mary booking spa treatments, an oddly cheerful segue many found jarring. Meanwhile, insiders close to Janelle allege she encouraged Mary to release whatever evidence she held, arguing that full transparency could finally sever the family's pattern of hush-hush cover-ups. Janelle, practical as ever, reportedly told Mary, "Sunlight costs nothing. Secrecy drains us all." That encouragement may explain why Mary has begun quietly digitizing old phone bills and social media archives, creating what one source calls a timeline dossier. Cody, catching wind, scheduled an emergency sit-down with TLC's legal counsel, declaring on camera, "Contracts are contracts," a speech that curiously never aired. The more he pressed, the more Mary digitized, until one executive allegedly muttered, "We're in a Cold War of receipts." And just when both sides seemed locked in stalemate, an unexpected player stepped onto the board. Christine's husband David, armed with his own polygamy survivor insight and a USB stick labeled Pattern of Control. What files sit on that drive? And why did Mary smile the minute she saw it land on her Parowan porch? Stay tuned, the alliance lines are blurring, and the next move could rewrite Sister Wives history. Insiders whisper that David's flash drive held more than budget spreadsheets. Tucked between JPEGs of cul-de-sac block parties, sat an audio snippet marked simply Midnight Call 0. Unverified leaks describe Mary's voice, low and nervy, telling the Catfish, "They think I'm planning a skydiving phase, but really I'm free-falling already." The line is followed by a tinny chuckle from Sam, then a chilling response many believe foreshadowed the later threats. "Keep talking, or your family hears everything." Allegedly, this was the first time Mary realized her phone companionship could morph into extortion.
You know, there was times that I would be at a store and he would call me and start talking to me and then just say, "Are you at such and such store?"
Producers, sources allege, begged to broadcast the clip as a cautionary tale. Network risk attorneys balked, fearing viewers might trace the blackmail concept to earlier TLC franchises. Instead, the show pivoted to Cody and Robin's adoption paperwork, hoping the legal labyrinth would distract from Mary's digital danger. Yet the vault only grew heavier. Rumor has it, Mary later confided to Janelle that Sam's hacker sidekick proved her reach by flashing private photos from the Browns' Las Vegas rental days, images Mary swears never left her cloud. That intrusion, she told Janelle, convinced her to sever contact, but not before she recorded several farewell messages at the hacker's request, hoping compliance would end the nightmare. Those voicemails, sources claim, included one where Mary pleads, "Stop asking me to say I'll move away. I'm not leaving the kids." TLC clipped that sentence, choosing to air a milder montage of Mary arranging flowers at the Parowan Inn. Executive logic, according to one editor who spoke off record, was that a direct reference to relocation would reignite the Mary's quitting the family narrative we've worked seasons to cool down. Christine, hearing of these redacted worries, allegedly told production, "The truth might sting, but lies blister." She and David then offered to host a side-camera confessional gratis, where Mary could narrate the Catfish saga from her own timeline. The proposal reportedly reached the top floor before stalling in what staff now call the Wednesday email dead zone, that limbo where controversial pitches quietly expire without formal rejection. Still, Mary's new habit of hashtagging posts with phrases like "no more dead zones" suggests she has not shelved the idea. Meanwhile, Cody's camp has grown restless. Insiders say he's considering an on-camera apology tour, but only if TLC guarantees final cut. Will Mary break the silence first, or will Cody's preemptive charm offensive steal her thunder? Next stretch, we weigh the odds and the unspoken terms. Insiders close to the negotiation table allege the proposed apology tour comes with a rider longer than a holiday grocery list.
And I'm like, yeah, how do you know that?
You're very emotional. I think you wear your feelings on your sleeve. To live with that fear, how did you manage to conceal it?
Cody wants a retroactive edit of the infamous nacho cheese confession, a soft-focus vignette of his courtship with Christine, and an ironclad promise that none of Mary's voicemails will ever air in full. TLC, rumor has it, countered by floating a compromise, blurred audio snippets mixed with a psychologist's commentary, framing Mary's ordeal as a universal warning rather than a salacious reveal. That suggestion hit a snag when a compliance lawyer flagged a single 3-second clip in which Mary breathes, "You make me feel seen," fearing viewers might identify the vocal cadence and unleash an amateur hunt for the Catfish's real identity. Allegedly, the network's corporate parent has no appetite for a Reddit-fueled witch hunt after last year's PR nightmares. Behind the scenes, Janelle is said to be urging Mary to reclaim the narrative on her own terms, perhaps via a podcast episode recorded from the Parowan B&B's front parlor. Friends note Janelle has quietly invested in portable audio gear, and one Unverified tipster swears the sisters-in-law tested sound levels during a late-night chocolate chip cookie bake. Christine, ever the cheer squad, reportedly offered to supply a title, Catfish and Courage, while David volunteered to read the hacker's alleged threats aloud in his best villain voice to underscore the danger. The sticking point, sources claim, is Mary's lingering worry that releasing the files could reopen legal liability, especially given past statements about the hacker's claimed capabilities. One entertainment attorney consulted for this script describes it as a tightrope. She owns her story, but once voice prints enter the public sphere, they can become evidence in defamation or privacy suits. Proceed with caution. Meanwhile, Cody's camp is leaning on goodwill optics. Insiders whisper he contacted family therapists to draft a televised mediation segment, hoping a show of reconciliation will soften the edges of his Nacho Gate gaffe. Robin, for her part, is said to support the idea, provided the segment is filmed in her Flagstaff living room, under her twinkling vignette lights, and only if producers agree to splice in vintage footage highlighting her children's adoption day. The stalemate, therefore, boils down to leverage.
I felt like I had to.
To set the record straight, Mary, was there any physical relationship with this person?
No.
Mary's voicemails versus Cody's apology package. Who blinks first could determine the tone of the next season's premiere. Will Mary's homemade podcast drop before Cody's curated contrition hits the screen? In the penultimate stretch, we map the timetable, the rumored contract clauses, and the silent countdown ticking in the background. Industry veterans say nothing rattles a network like a deadline tied to someone else's upload button. And allegedly, Mary just circled a date on her farmhouse calendar, the anniversary of her mother's passing, a moment she cherishes as both bittersweet and fiercely independent. According to a cousin who once managed the Parowan Inn's reservation ledger, Mary believes releasing a curated reel of short voicemail excerpts, think 30-second teasers stitched between reflections on healing, will honor her mother's mantra about owning one's truth before someone else weaponizes it. TLC insiders, hearing the same whispers, reportedly convened an emergency Zoom to debate whether the show could preempt Mary's drop by airing a context episode first. One executive, "This is unverified but delicious," suggested shipping Mary a branded sound booth as a goodwill gesture, only to be reminded by legal that gifting equipment could be construed as tacit approval of content the company has no editorial control over. Complicating matters, a tech-savvy fan forum unearthed what they claim is a cached thumbnail from an earlier cut of season 19. The tiny still frame, magnified and enhanced, seems to show Mary clutching her phone with an on-screen waveform and a timestamp that matches one of the leaked voicemail transcripts floating around private Discord servers. No official confirmation, yet the discovery fueled online countdown clocks predicting voicemail eve. Janelle's sons, rumor has it, warned their mother that once the internet decides a leak is inevitable, the only defense is transparency on one's own terms. Cue Janelle urging Mary to release a written statement clarifying which clips are authentic and which are AI fakes already circulating. Mary, ever methodical, asked a former tabloid editor to vet her draft. That editor allegedly replied with a single sentence, "Truth lands softer when you read it yourself." Against this backdrop, Cody's camp is racing to finalize his on-camera apology, but insiders whisper he is still wrangling over wording.
I never met this person. I've never met this person. I've never seen him. I've never seen, the pictures that he sent to me were of an actor.
He wants misunderstanding, where the producer insists on hurtful candor. Robin, sources allege, threatened to walk off set if the final script paints her as complicit in Mary's isolation. The impasse makes one wonder whether both releases, the podcast excerpts and the televised mea culpa, might collide on the very same week, creating a split-screen spectacle no amount of PR spin can fully choreograph. Next stretch, we examine how viewers could be handed dueling narratives within 48 hours and what that means for the franchise's future footprint. Industry forecasters say simultaneous premieres could spark what one blogger calls the sister quake, a ratings tremor felt from streaming charts to bookstore pre-orders. Yet both camps seem ready to risk it. Sources allege Mary's team has already booked a cozy Utah venue for an intimate listening party, tea lights, soft cheese, and a limited edition vinyl pressing of the voicemails for collectors who still revere analog. Meanwhile, rumor has it TLC will slot Cody's apology special directly opposite, hoping curiosity about his word choice outweighs the pull of Mary's raw audio. No official confirmation, but ad buyers reportedly received 2 competing deck slides marked Thursday Prime. If that schedule stands, viewers could witness a reality TV rarity, a real-time referendum on whose version of events feels more honest. Industry friends remind me such head-to-head gambits can backfire. Think of those legendary soap opera preemptions that drove audiences straight to rival channels, never to return. Yet executives chasing a breakout moment often decide the only way forward is through the storm, not around it. Insiders whisper that production assistants have already drafted split-screen social assets, Mary's vintage handset on one side, Cody's studio mic on the other, each with the caption, "Choose your truth." If that lands in your feed, remember the network greenlights nothing by accident. And should both releases surface together, expect immediate ripple effects. Podcast rankings recalibrated overnight, hashtags that spell out loyalty in capital letters, and perhaps most poignantly, family members forced to pick which link to click first. Will Christine tune into her former sister wife's healing audio, or monitor Cody's contrition to gauge sincerity? Will Janelle live tweet it all, or take the grandkids on a distraction hike in Flagstaff's Ponderosa Pines? Allegedly, everyone's phones will reveal where hearts truly lie. So tell me, if both broadcasts air the same evening, which play button will you press? And what would hearing those unfiltered voicemails change for you? Tap that subscribe, nudge the like, and keep hanging out here for every twist, turn, and late night upload. You won't believe what's coming next, and neither will the Browns, when the internet decides whose story sings loudest.